Hey guys, it's Mama Two Life of One. Did you guys miss me? I know it's been a while since I have done any kind of review or recap. I went out of town for a few days and I've been all caught up in the Olympics, honestly. And so I kind of forgot, but I was like, oh, I need to finish Bridgerton. And I actually watched all of Bridgerton, but then I was like, no, I need to finish rewatching it for you guys because I'm sure a lot of you who watch me probably don't watch it and just want to hear me talk about stuff, which, hey, I have no problem with because I know that I can talk a lot. I know I may see things that other people don't see when I'm watching these shows. So I'm here to entertain and I don't mind. If this is your first time here, thank you guys so much for clicking on my video. I am a content creator. I do like to review and recap different shows. I tend to try to give advice on things that I've experienced as a mommy and as a wife. I'm also a literary editor. I'm a published author. I'm a public speaker. So a lot of things related to communications. But you probably can't tell because my voice sounds a little weird. Like I said, I went out of town and I haven't learned the appropriate way to get excited at a party. So when I get excited, I'm like, oh, that's my song. And I'm singing at the top of my lungs or screaming at the top of my lungs. I haven't figured out how to scream from my diaphragm just yet. So I tend to lose my voice very quickly. My voice has actually been gone since about Thursday, which was first. So it's been gone for about 6 days now because, again, I just can't help myself. I just really can't. But neither here nor there. You guys clicked on the video because of the title. We're here to talk about Bridgerton Season 3, Episode 7. So we're almost at the end of the season. And like I said, I've been caught up with the Olympics. I haven't really watched anything new. But as soon as shows that I love come back, I'll start reviewing and recapping those, perhaps. Or just reviewing and recapping documentaries because that's really my thing. I love me a good doc. So, first of all, before I start, make sure you like this video, share this video with others, subscribe to my channel, and comment below because I love talking to y'all. Like, who wouldn't want to talk about this show or just talk about anything? You can ask me whatever in the comments. I don't care. I have no shame. I'll say I have no shame. And I can't even say I have no secrets. But I like talking to you guys. So definitely comment below with whatever you want to talk about. So Bridgerton Season 3, Episode 7. The episode is called Joining of Hands because this is the episode where Colin and Penelope finally get married. So the episode picks up from episode 6, where Colin discovers that Penelope is Lady Whistledown. So he's confronting her in like a dark alley. He's extremely upset. He's pissed. He's crying. And I was like, this actor is really good. You know, we see the emotion and distraughtness on his face. But I feel like in that moment, and that's probably maybe for the viewer to decide if he's more sad about the situation or more angry. I feel like I would have expected a little more anger, but his persona didn't give anger. Kind of gave just like, I'm just so devastated by this news. I'm just heartbroken. That's kind of what it gave. And I think probably that was intentional. But he was talking like he was angry, but he wasn't really raising his voice. And I just didn't feel like sometimes when someone's really angry on screen, you gotta feel the angry vibrations coming off of them. I didn't get that from him. So I kind of want a little more of that, but it's okay. And also, if you guys watch Bridgerton, there's an opening sequence with the tree, and I guess that's supposed to be because Bridgertons are the root of the ton. It's probably something deeper than that, I'm sure. But normally it's just like a beautiful tree in bloom. Whenever the episode, and I don't remember if they did this in seasons past, but this season, whenever there's some turmoil or some chaos, the tree is like swaying in the breeze, and in the back, instead of it being a clear blue sky, is these thunderous clouds. So it's supposed to let you know that, oh, there's some trouble brewing right now. So I always thought that was kind of cute, this little added touch that they do. So, in addition to picking up from that, we also see that Cressida has printed her version of Lady Whistledown, and the whole ton is reading it, but they can clearly tell that something is off. The tone is really weird. It's not as engaging, as entertaining as it normally is. It's just very dark and just really gossipy in a bad way because it's just talking. It's making assumptions specifically about the Bridgertons. How they may be from mixed parentage, and I can't believe they have so many kids. It's just more. It's bordering more on just being mean as opposed to giving information. And right on the heels of them reading this, the other Whistledown, the real Lady Whistledown, comes out. And as soon as they read it, they can clearly tell, okay, that this is for sure the fake, this is for sure the real. I get this. And even the Queen was like, looking at both of them, was like, oh no, I know Lady Whistledown's voice by now. She's been writing for years. This has to be the real Lady Whistledown. Obviously, you guys are fake or fraud. And because Cressida's found out to be fake and a fraud, her dad is like, look, you go into your aunt's house who lives somewhere down the country. Ain't nothing you do down there, but I'm gonna write to her now to make sure she come get you. So until she come, you're gonna stay in this room. She's basically a prisoner in her house, right? Which is what she gets. I'm not upset with her. There's a scene where Lady Featherington and Penelope and their sisters and husbands are walking somewhere. But if you look at past episodes, even in the beginning of this season, the sequence in which they walk is always pretty interesting. They typically walk in order of age. So normally Lady Featherington is out by herself out front. Then it's the older sister and her husband, the younger sister and her husband, and the Penelope in the back walking by herself. In this particular sequence, Lady Featherington is walking with Penelope in the front, and then it's the older sister and her husband and the middle sister and her husband. I thought it was interesting that they changed the sequence of it because I think it's supposed to show that Penelope is no longer walking in this family on her own. She's no longer by herself. Her mother is trying to be by her side and trying to be a better mother to her. So I really liked that. And Prudence is definitely looking at them back and forth. And I can't tell if Prudence is, I mean, so okay, this is a question, I guess. Prudence definitely sees that the mother's paying more attention to Penelope. And so I get the sense that she is jealous. But I feel like when somebody is truly jealous, they are vindictive and snooty towards the person who's getting the attention that they crave. She's not being mean to Penelope at all. It's more like she's looking at the situation with longing and with her own sadness. So I don't know if jealousy is even the right word or if it's just she's sad that she doesn't have his mother's attention or what. But she's definitely giving a look like, I, I'm missing something here. There's something that I want. I don't quite know what it is. And I don't really like the way this looks. But again, she's not looking mad at all. She just looks kind of confused and almost like she's sad about the situation. Penelope talks, well, on their walk, actually, I guess they're just promenading. Penelope sees Eloise and she tells her, hey, Colin knows what's going on. And Eloise definitely feels her pain, but she's like, Penelope, I can't help you with this. I'm already in the middle and I love my brother and I want to stay out of it. And I feel like this is a turning point in their relationship because too often it is, at least in the past, has been Eloise coming to Penelope with a problem that she needs solved or a problem that she wants to talk about. And Penelope has been the dutiful friend, just being there for her, listening to her, giving her advice. And I feel like there's a moment where Penelope grabs Eloise's hand and says, I understand you can't help me, I get it, but you have been such a dear friend to me, and it's been torture not being your friend this season. And Eloise snatches her hand back, and Penelope, instead of looking crestfallen or sad or crying, she's like, you know what? No matter, you're right. This is my problem. I'm gonna deal with it. I thank you for everything that you've done, but I got this. And I thought again that this was a turning point because we get to see Penelope standing on her own 2 feet, not becoming that wallflower all over again, not acting helpless like she normally does. Again, not crying, not begging, not doing any of that. She stands on her own, like, okay, what? You know what? You're right. You're not ready to be my friend, and that's fine. I will take care of this. And I feel like Eloise sees this and is like, okay, I'm finally seeing Penelope for who she is. And I feel like Penelope is also a relief. Like, whether Eloise becomes my friend or not, I'm going to be good because I'm going to make sure that I'm good. So I liked that particular scene. It's a very small scene, but I thought it was very significant in really seeing these two friends who have known each other since childhood. I feel like this is the first time they really have presented themselves as women. And so I appreciated it. And Colin and Penelope go with the mothers to look at the room where they're going to have their wedding breakfast. I guess they're having the wedding kind of early in the morning, and instead of having like a wedding reception, they're having a wedding breakfast. So they're with the mamas looking at the room, barely looking at Penelope, like he can't even lay eyes on her. And she's like, "Is this what marriage is going to be? Are you going to continue to, are you actually going to go through the wedding?" He said, I'm going to go through the wedding because we had sex and you could be compromised already. And I'm a man of honor, which is like his tagline forever on the show. And he asked her, do you plan to stop writing Lady Whistledown? He's like, I noticed that there wasn't Lady Whistledown today. And what I loved her, I feel like the old Penelope who's been waiting forever for Colin to pay attention to her and waiting forever for Colin to notice her in a different light other than friendship. I feel like she is at the point where she's standing on her own 2 feet. The old Penelope would have just been like, of course I'll never do it again. I'm so sorry. And would have just been like done anything to basically stay in his good graces. This new version of Penelope, when he asked her point blank, are you planning to continue to write Lady Whistledown? She turned to him and said, I can't promise you that. I honestly don't know. And it shocked him that her answer was, I don't know, as opposed to, of course, I'm going to stop because I love you, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at her in shock and she just stared him in the eye. She didn't look defiant. She didn't look like she was trying to challenge him, but she wanted to make sure that he saw in her eyes that I'm telling the truth, that I'm not telling you no, but I'm also not telling you yes. Whatever that decision is going to be based off of what I want for myself. It's not going to be based off of how you feel about the situation. All of that was said in her eyes, and I love that scene. And the mamas definitely saw like something is off, but of course they're not gonna say anything because they're trying not to meddle, which is very different from the show because they always meddle. But I love the fact that that's how she handled that situation. Benedict gets summoned by Tilly. Remember, Tilly is like, his jump off right now. And she basically is like, look, I know you saw me and Paul getting it in, or you saw us kissing. We have a little whatchamacallit going on. He's my little sneaky link. He wants you to be sneaky link too and do some stuff with us. And Colin, Benedict's like, I've never thought about it and I don't really know. She's like, well, look, my staff is discreet, so if you want to get it in with both of us, you can. If you don't, hey, you can just continue to do what I fuck Fizzle, and that's cool. Of course, he didn't really say any of this, but this is my interpretation of that conversation. And I will say, Benedict is still one of my favorite characters. Well, I'll take that back. I don't know if he's one of my favorite characters. He's definitely my favorite sibling. But I feel like this whole season has been about Benedict being really lost and not really knowing what to do with himself. And it's a little frustrating because Benedict in the books is a little bit different and he has direction. His direction doesn't really waver. So I kind of hate the fact, I hate, I don't really like the fact that they changed his character this much for the show. I'll just say that. Lord Anderson, who is, if you remember, Lady Danbury's brother, he comes to call on Lady Bridgerton. And it's so cute seeing this woman who has had these 8 children, who now has grandchildren, who is, lady of this house for so long. She is flustered and like doesn't really know what to do. Like, oh, oh, he's coming. Okay. And it's just like clearly she likes this man, and she has to like this man because she was so hung up on her husband Edmund, and this is the first man she has given a second look to, and it is wonderful to see because we don't get to see that side of her. So he comes in, he sits down, she offers him cake and tea, like they normally do. And he basically is like, she tells him, Francesca and Lord Kilmartin, they're secretly engaged, but, she's not really talking to me right now. There's some stuff going there. He's like, okay, I'm sure everything will be fine. She's like, yeah, I'm sure. She was like, however, I'm not the only person who needs to get their affairs in order. Basically, because he said, once they get their stuff together, can I holler at you or whatever? And she's like, well, honestly, you got some stuff you need to take care of as well. So she basically telling him, and she told Agatha the same thing later on, Lady Danbury, look, y'all got some issues amongst y'all. I don't know what it is, but you need to get that stuff in order before you even want to holler at this, okay? Because I ain't got time to do with your drama and my own drama. Facts. Makes perfect sense, right? And, one thing I loved is that, again, she's told, and I wrote this in my notes, she tells him he needs to get right with his sister, and I put bros before hoes. So basically, Agatha is my girl. I'm about to start nothing up with you, knowing that you beefing with her because I got to make sure that if we do something, that she isn't offended and that she's cool with everything. And I can't believe she'll be cool with everything if y'all ain't mend y'all fences. So figure that out because that's my dog and I ain't about to throw her over for nobody. So Cressida, still the point where she's a prisoner in her own house. Mom comes to tell her, hey, your dad wrote your aunt and she's going to be here in like a week. And Cressida's like, yo, you help me write the column. I need you to help me out. She's like, your father has threatened to send me to the country too. And I'm like, how the freak is he gonna threaten it? But I mean, the father is clearly like not a good man. Like I think we've all established that in the past couple episodes, really. But she basically tells Cressida, "I told you not to write anything at all." But since you did write, we could have kept it going, but you shouldn't have never befriended that Bridgerton girl. Because I told you the whole column that Cressida wrote, now her mother wrote, was all about bashing the Bridgertons. And she's like, I need to bring them down a peg or two. So like in Cressida, I told you a long time ago that you can only depend on yourself. You should only be out for yourself, especially when it comes to other women. Basically, you don't need no friends, which is a terrible thing to tell anybody really. And as I just having a conversation with somebody early today about how there are a lot of women my age and older who still like, I can't really do females because females are like this and they're catty and that and that. It's like a couple things. A, all women are not catty. B, the experiences you've had have probably been bad, and I get that. But I'm also only hearing your side. So I have no idea what you could have said or could have done to prompt a behavior from these women towards you, right? Because we don't know. Obviously, when you're retelling the story, you're going to tell it from your perspective, which is the perspective of a victim. So who knows what you actually did to piss these women off? Another thing is that all women are not created equal, right? So you can't put that moniker on all women that all women are going to do this, all women are going to do that. And then the other thing is the last final point I think is that women who say that act like men, like all men are just amazing. Like, okay, you may have encountered some catty women, but you've also encountered some really trifling, misogynistic, a-holish men. So let's not act like only women are the problem. Men can be a problem too. So I hate when any woman says that. Is the fact that Cressida's mother is telling her that. I think is really trifling, especially because Cressida, we don't really know how old any of these people are, but assuming Cressida's in her 20s, the fact that her mother has been telling her this for her whole life, no wonder this chick is so catty and mean to other people because she's under the impression that I can't depend on nobody. I don't need no friends. I don't like that. And I also think it's interesting that we have that conversation between her and her mother, but we have a scene with Penelope and Eloise, who is like her best friend, and another scene with Agatha and Violet Bridgerton, who are also close girlfriends. And then another scene with Penelope and Genevieve, the Modis, who's another set of girlfriends. So I like the fact that I like the juxtaposition of one person being raised to believe that women can't be friends, but then you're showing three clear examples of friendships that actually work and that are strong and that are beneficial to both people. So I like to do that. And Colin drinks with Kilmartin, Benedict, and Will at a bar. And it's supposed to be the night before Colin's wedding, so it's supposed to be toasting him, but Colin's getting sloshed, hammered, however you want to call it. Kilmartin is a little sad because he's like, I don't think your mother really likes me, and I don't know what to do. And Benedict is like, yo, we know that you love our sister, and my mother likes you, but she just likes a really big, grand gesture. She's just all about the great loves and all that stuff. So you need to do something bold and to let her and everybody know that this is my woman, I'm gonna fight for her, I ain't going nowhere. So that's the conversation they have. And while they're doing that, Penelope visits Genevieve. And like I said before, I love the fact, I love, love, love the fact that we see Penelope and we see another woman and another woman outside of Eloise, but a woman who understands Penelope and who I feel like they're actual friends. And the way you can tell they're actual friends is that Genevieve is the Modiste who is Parisian, has a thick Parisian accent. Her accent only drops when she's talking to somebody that she's comfortable with. Because in the first season, it was with what was the girl's name? It was the girl who was the opera singer that Anthony was having an affair with Sienna. Whenever she talked to Sienna, her accent would come out a lot clearer, just like the regular British accent. And she would drop the Parisian accent completely because, like, oh, just my homegirl. So she drops when she's talking to Penelope. And I was like, the fact that she's comfortable doing that shows that she thinks Penelope's a true friend. And I love the fact that we have this friendship between two people who are from completely different classes. You have the Penelope from the ton, and then Genevieve's part of the working class. And I love the fact that we get to see them actually being friends. And whenever they talk, they're on completely equal footing because they're not that different from each other. So I love that we also have a combination of that too. But she basically tells Genevieve the night before wedding, like Colin knows, and I hate that he knows, and I contemplated giving up Lady Whistledown. But honestly, when I thought about it, I just I didn't, felt like I was giving up a piece of myself. And Genevieve tells her, there's no such thing as true love without embracing your true self. So basically, you can't love this man if you're willing to hide parts of yourself from him and from yourself. That's not the way this works. And I loved it, and I definitely agree. And looking at my notes on the side, so that's why my eyes keep going over here, just to make sure I don't miss anything. Benedict contemplates Tilly's offer, and he's like in an office or something. You just see him looking really contemplative while he's holding a note from Tilly. So he's like, figuring that out. And then Colin goes for a stroll because he's obviously drunk. He runs into Penelope, and the accusations start flying again. Where are you coming from? This isn't safe for you. How dare you do this? And she apologizes to him. But she also says, you've helped me build the confidence in myself that I didn't know I had. And yes, Lady Whistledown, said some bad things, whatever, but she's not all bad. I don't have to hide behind her, but there's still value in her. So I'm not giving her up. She is me and I am her. Hear me roar, all that stuff. And so this conversation, I think, really got to the root of why he's so upset. He talks about being humiliated because he talked about his writing. He's like, and here you are, a published author already, and I'm acting like I'm gonna be this great writer, and you're probably just, lying to me. And she's like, Colin, I love you. Like, it's not about that. He's like, you're putting yourself in danger. So I can take care of myself. He's like, so what good am I to you? It's like, oh, now see, if a therapist is in, I'm like, aha, that's the issue. Colin places his value on being able to protect and provide for people in general. His mother, his sisters, and now Penelope. So he believes as a man that his entire value, again, is based off the fact that I can protect my wife and I can provide for my wife. Penelope has earned a very great living being Lady Whistledown, so she doesn't need your provisions. She's been doing this and been flying under the radar for years, so clearly she doesn't need your protection because she doesn't know what to do. So without those two things, he's like, well, what the heck am I supposed to do to help you? How can I help you? And they answer that question a little bit in episode 8, but it's interesting because I feel like a lot of men today, they place high value on that, and it always backfires on them because either they feel like they can't really do much in the marriage and they feel less than, or because they do those things, whether the woman wants it or not, or needs it or not, because they do those things, they think that's all they need to do. Like, oh, I protect you and I provide you, I pay for the bill, so therefore you don't need me to be emotionally intelligent. You don't need me to help the kids. You don't need me to do all these other things that the woman may be asking them to do because they think because they're doing these two things that you need nothing else. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do as a man. Again, that's not the way it works. And I'm not going to go into a whole soapbox thing about the the expectations of a husband, the expectations of a wife, because that's not what this video is about. But again, in this particular uh, scene, I love the fact that we finally got to the heart of why Colin is so upset. Because again, from the beginning of the video, beginning of the episode, I couldn't decide if he was more sad or angry. So now we understand. Oh, okay, this is what's going on. You feel kind of out of place, and you don't know what to do and how to help and what kind of husband you're supposed to be because you had this idea in your head all these years of what a husband is supposed to do, and now that idea has gone away, and you're like, what the fuck am I going to do now? And, they get in each other's face. Of course, they start making out. And he finds his way under her dress in 2 seconds flat. Is always lifting her dress up. Let me stick some fingers up in you. Of course, they get caught. Not get caught, but they hear some like a carriage goes by and they have to stop. I'm like, this man don't waste no time getting up under her drawers. And they must not be able to wear underwear. Not be able to. These women don't wear drawers, right? Like, if you guys remember season 1, Daphne she had unprotected sex with her husband. So she thinks she might be pregnant. She's sitting at an opera with him, and then she like looks and is like looks kind of surprised. So she can feel herself coming on her period. She goes to a room, takes some napkins, shoves them under her dress, pulls the napkins out, and there's a bunch of blood on it. So it's like, you're not wearing underwear. So, and I'm not going to do the research. I also don't know what year any of this takes place. But what year were tampons and pads invented? Like, what did they do? Because she literally just stuck some napkins up there and then pulled them out. So I'm like, okay, all that blood is coming out. How did none of this blood get on your dress or get on the seat that you were sitting on? And nothing is covering it. So, like, I'm so confused. I'm just so confused by that. So the fact that Colin's always able to like finger Penelope whenever he wants, it's like, obviously she don't wear no drawers. So that means none of them wear no drawers. I feel like if you're part of the ton, I feel like you're so uptight that you would wear drawers all the time. It would just feel weird to be just kind of, they're not free balling because I guess they wear skirts or whatever, but I feel like working class would probably not wear drawers as opposed to the ton. I thought that was weird. And that's just something I noticed, but yeah, I thought that was strange. So when Colin gets home, he's still, slightly inebriated. Anthony and Kate are there, and the mother, Lady Bridgerton, called them to come and give Colin some marital advice. And because she knows that something is wrong, but she doesn't want to pry and ask him outright. She also knows if I ask my son what's wrong, he ain't gonna tell me nothing because kids never do. That's not what they do. And so Anthony Hayden basically telling him, look, marriage takes work, it takes time. There's a reason why Penelope has been so close to you all this time. And I'm sure that whatever she has said or done recently doesn't take away from the fact that you still like her and you still respect her and you still value her. So hold on to those things you already liked about her and don't let one mistake stop you from marrying the woman that you know that you love. So while he's preparing to get married and everybody's preparing for the wedding, Cressida's still a prisoner in her house, plotting escape. She's plotting to run away. The Queen's still looking for Lady Whistledown. Now that she knows that Cressida isn't the real Lady Whistledown, that means the reward is still up for grabs. There's a long line of townspeople who have come to the Queen to basically give their suspicions or their suggestions of who it might be. And while they're doing that, she's looking at Lady Whistledown, like past issues, or the past two ones, and she gets this look on her face like an aha light bulb moment, like, oh my gosh, how did I not see this before? So we end there with the Queen. And then we finally get to this wedding. Now, it's full of people. You know, remember in the past episode, the wedding was announced 3 weeks ago in church. So, and other weddings, they'll say, does anyone object to these people getting married? But because he asked that 3 weeks ago, nobody's going to ask it today, which I thought was, again, a very interesting, different thing. And Penelope's mother walked her down the aisle, and they're flower girls. Where the freak these flower girls come from? We almost never see kids in the ton, like occasionally. Gregory and Hyacinth are the main kids we see, and they've grown up a lot, so they're not even kids anymore. Where the heck do these kids come from? Normally it's like a cousin, it's a goddaughter, it's a whatever. Like my flower girl is my goddaughter, right? So it's normally a little girl in your family. Where the heck do these little girls come from? And why? So I don't know how this works in the ton, how they feel about bridesmaids. Because you remember, Daphne's wedding was rushed, but there were no bridesmaids, right? Anthony's wedding, I think the only reason they had bridesmaids is because, and she didn't have a bunch of bridesmaids. She had one bridesmaid who was her sister. I think the only reason they even had the sister as a bridesmaid is because you had to have that sequence of Anthony imagining her in the dress while he's looking at her and looking past Edwina to look at Kate. That's the only reason why she was up there. And then for this wedding, there are no bridesmaids. I'm like, she has two sisters. She has Eloise technically, and then she also has her future sister-in-law. So she's gonna have Francesca and Hyacinth up there too. But Colin also doesn't have any groomsmen. Is that something that is like frowned upon in the time? Is that a relatively, I'm saying relatively like newer concept? But this takes place in the 18 somethings. So is that something they just didn't do back in the day? I wasn't quite sure. I just thought that was kind of interesting that in the three weddings again they haven't really done that. So I thought that was strange. So they have a wedding breakfast afterwards, but they have a big wedding cake. And the cake, if you notice, is yellow and blue. And I was like, that's really cute, like little nod to both the families. Because if you go to the Bridgerton house, when they're in the drawing room, and even what they're wearing, a lot of the Bridgertons wear shades of blue. It's like their signature color. But then Penelope, if you remember the first two seasons, she wore only yellow. So to have to just be yellow and blue, I thought it was a great mix. It's supposed to be a great mix of both Featheringtons and Bridgertons. I thought that was kind of cool. And Prudence told Penelope that she was a fine bride and she seemed genuine. But when she said it, she kept looking at her mother. And I felt like I feel kind of bad. Prudence and Philippa, and even Penelope, they weren't raised to act like sisters. Meaning they weren't raised with the idea of, hey, it's you guys against the world. Your sister has to be your first best friend. You need to have her back. Blah blah blah. That wasn't the environment they were raised in. They were raised in a very competitive environment. Like, oh, you see your sister, she got married, and maybe you need to think about it. And oh, your sister did this. Like, it wasn't they weren't raised to necessarily be friends with each other. So I feel like Prudence is trying, but just like her mother, it's a little awkward at times because we haven't done this all of our lives, and now all of a sudden we're supposed to be nice to each other and supposed to have each other's back. That's kind of weird for her, but I feel like she's genuinely trying, even though it's like, am I doing this right? I said you look nice. Is that what I'm supposed to do? So I feel kind of bad that this is so foreign for them, but I guess it's a good thing that okay, you guys are trying. That's great. And also during the wedding, Prudence and Eloise both cry during the wedding, which I think is really sweet as well. So Kate and Anthony are having a conversation about, India. My sister lives there and it's wonderful. So remember, Kate is pregnant. Anthony's like, yo, let's just go to India and let's let the baby be born there. Because obviously the baby's going to be Bridgerton. Like we know that. Facts, facts on facts on facts. But when the baby goes to India, it'd be great if they were born there so they can know their history, know their culture. And so they're all excited. This is great. It's also producer's way of letting us know that, hey, you may not see Kate and Anthony next season, but who knows? And so Penelope is tired of the schmoozing, talking to people, hugging people, smiling in their faces. She's like, I haven't had a moment with my husband. And remember, things are still rocky. So she goes up to him and is like, I want to spend time with you. I want to dance with you. He's like, right now it's breakfast and the lunch today. I guess that's taboo to dance when it's light outside, not night, which is dumb. But they dance to Taylor Swift's You Belong to Me, and that's honestly the only Taylor Swift song that I know even some of the words to. But I was like, oh, that's a perfect song for them. And then other people join them, including Lord Kilmartin, who asked Francesca to dance. He's like, I think we both need to be bold with our intentions towards each other, and let's just be bold and let people know, yo, we together, and we don't care what y'all think. So they dance, and it's really cute. And my favorite part is at the end of the dance, it's probably like maybe only five couples on the floor. At the end of the dance, when the last like beat is played, All the women get dipped except for Penelope. Penelope's standing straight up, and Colin is gazing into her eyes. And he gently like strokes the side of her face. And I was like, that was one of the more intimate moments I've seen on the show. It seemed very intentional. And there's also a part of the dance where everybody around them disappears. All the other dancers, the everybody in the room, everyone disappears, and it's just the two of them. And I feel like that intimate moment of him brushing his hand down her face was supposed to be one of those moments of, everybody's disappeared. All I see is you, and it's like full of love in his eyes, which I thought was a beautiful thing. So before everybody can get all excited about that, the queen burst in. And basically is like, yo, if you're in the Bridgerton, roll out. And what I do love is that when she told everybody to leave but the Bridgertons, Lady Danbury stayed. Because Lady Danbury know, like, hey, you ain't getting rid of me. I may not be Bridgerton by blood, but these are my friends. You my friend. I'm staying. I need them freaks on. And the queen said nothing. She didn't say, Lady Danbury, that includes you. Because everybody know the queen, yeah, she got all the power. Lady Danbury, though, she's that chick. And everybody knows it. I love that the queen even acknowledges it and didn't say a word to her. So she basically gathered everybody, all the Bridgertons in the room to say, I know one of you is Lady Wilson. Now, first she was like, I know somebody's holding a secret. I ain't leaving until somebody confesses. Francesca steps up and is like, oh, well, my secret is that I'm engaged to Lord Kilmartin and I love him and I want to marry him. She was like, girl, that ain't a secret. I know you love him. You don't need my permission. Like, I ain't for that. She thinks it's Lady Whistledown. And this is, I thought that there was a big flaw in her reasoning. Basically, she's like, when the first Bridgerton, when first Lady Whistledown came out, that Cressida wrote, it was bashing the Bridgertons. She's like, and it wasn't until the Bridgertons were under attack that the real person came forward and said some stuff. So it has to be a Bridgerton. I'm like, but how would I mean, obviously we know it's Penelope, right? How Penelope know, A, that Cressida is actually going to put out something. She could have predicted that Cressida was going to pretend to be Lady Whistledown, and there's no way for her to predict what Cressida is going to write. There was no indication at all. But Cressida put out that preliminary Lady Whistledown. All it said was, don't worry, I'm coming out with something that's going to be juicy. No indication it's going to be about any Bridgertons in any way, shape, or form. So I thought her logic was really weird. Like, that just made no sense. And all the Bridgertons are not in the room. She didn't comment on the fact that there's no Benedict, there's no Hyacinth, and there's no Gregory. None of these members are in the room when she confronts them, but she doesn't make note of that. I thought that was kind of strange as well. So again, I thought it just didn't hold any water. So after Francesca says, oh, I'm getting married, she's like, I don't care about that. That's not what I'm here for. Anthony's like, I assure you, if I had known that was happening on the roof, I would have stopped it immediately. On one hand, I don't think Anthony is really as observant as he thinks he is. But on the other hand, it didn't technically happen under his roof. It happened under the Featherington roof. So Penelope doesn't say anything. And after the queen leaves, Colin storms out. And she's like, I didn't think it would help or hurt if I said something. He's like, no, but now you can see this is dangerous. You need to give it up. She's like, I'm Lady Wilson. I'm not giving that up for nobody. Like, I don't get what she said. And he's like, well, fine. I'm sleeping on the couch. And that's pretty much, well, not really how the episode ends. That's kind of how their part of the story ends, with her being distraught that Colin is rejecting her and rejecting a part of who she truly is. And Eloise follows her and gives her a hug, like, it's going to be okay. I got you. So I was like, okay, again, that's a step in the right direction for their friendship, that Eloise was there for her and in her time of need. I thought that was very sweet. So after that, Benedict visits Tilly and starts an affair with her and her sneaky link Paul. So now they're all about to get in together, yada yada. Cressida is trying to run away, so she's trying to gather money, to get some money together. So she's trying to find the printer that printed her first issue and only issue, rather, of Lady Whistledown, so that she can use that money to start her new life. So she's visiting all these printers. She doesn't know who the printer is because her mom took care of it. She can't ask her mom because her mom's gonna know what her plan is. So she's at the third printer, and the guy's like, "No, it's not here." She's like, "Dang it!" He's like, "Are you?" She's like, "You're not her, right?" He's like, "Oh man, because my old boss used to work for her, or work was the printer that I did Lady Whistledown, and he told me that she was a redhead." So Cressida like, "Oh, tell me more," because apparently at the time there are only four redheads, and it's just the Featheringtons. No one else has red hair anywhere in the ton. It's just the four of them. So basically, that's how the episode ends. And we see that Cressida is going to find out who the real Lady Whistledown is. So that is episode 7. Like I said, we have one more episode to go. I will say this. I think that I still like Benedict as a sibling. And I've said before, and I'll say it again. I do not like what they're doing with his character. I think Benedict, as a character in the book, had a lot more substance to him, and I understand that they're setting him up to be more. I'm sure, but I just don't like what they're doing with him. I like the fact that they brought Kate and Anthony back for a few episodes. We didn't really have that with Daphne and Simon, so I think that's kind of cool. I think that's what people want. They want to see that continuity. They want to see these couples being actually happy. Because a lot of times we end with these couples when they get married, and maybe a couple episodes after that, but we don't really get to see them in marital bliss. So I like the fact that they have Anthony and Kate there. I'm pretty sure this is the last episode that they'll be in. Now they're heading to India for a few months. Um, I like that we're seeing so many female friendships that we didn't really see before. Because you remember Agatha and Violet became really close friends during Queen Charlotte. They didn't become close friends in the actual Bridgerton series. So we get to see their friendship from Queen Charlotte really play out in season three. I like seeing them as friends. Like I love seeing Penelope and Genevieve as friends, and even Penelope and Eloise. And Eloise gets on my nerves sometimes. I feel like the two of them needed that break to really grow into who they are and to really appreciate who the other person is and appreciate what it really means to have a friend. So they seem to be counting on the men, and I like to see that too. We don't really get to see men being friends. Like the men drinking, I guess that's their way of being friends and bonding. But and I feel like we don't get to see enough of that, honestly. And Benedict and Anthony had some moments from Anthony's season, which was season two. I feel like Benedict and Colin should be a lot closer than they are because I don't know how far apart they are in age necessarily, but at least in the pecking order of kid, they're right beside each other. So I feel like Benedict should have just as close a relationship with Colin as he does with Anthony. And I don't really see that. Even though we see them in some scenes, it doesn't mean they're actually close to each other. So I would kind of like to see that a little bit more. I feel like it's too late now because we only got one more episode. But I thought, this episode was fine. I'm excited to see, well, not excited to see what happens. I'm excited to talk to you guys about what happens next. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you guys notice something that I didn't, one thing I didn't notice in the beginning sequence where they have everybody reading the fake whistle down, there's this fine, and this is just my observation because I look for this. There's this fine looking dude with locks who's reading it, and his face was just like, oh, like basically you can tell this isn't a real lady whistle down. But I just love the fact that we got a close up of him because I'm like, I've never seen him before a day in my life. He didn't have any speaking lines, which is cool. But he was a fine piece of main candy. I was like, oh, okay. Hello, nice to see you. But that's all my observations. If you guys noticed something I did, please put in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, share this video with whoever you think actually wants to watch it, comment, and make sure to subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys soon. Peace.